The road from Nairobi to Nakuru, I've been talking about it for many times. The road was anticipated earlier to cost Kenya around 160 billion Kenya shillings. Now we have seen that that has been revised upwards to around 200 billion Kenya shillings. A 40 billion increment with no increment in kilometers, just possibly maybe increment in interests. This is the issue about that road, that there is no country in our region that can afford to toll a corridor road, economically speaking. And it is a wrong model for Kenya to think you can toll Nairobi, Nakuru, or up to Mau Summit Road, because it can't work economically. And I'm just here asking the people in the western part of Kenya, all the way, the people who go to Nakuru from Nairobi, the people who use that road, North Rift, South Rift, Western Kenya, Nyanza, and all the regions that primarily use the highway. These are Kenyans who pay taxes in all its forms. They pay VAT, they pay pay, they pay all manner of taxes. On top of that, the users of Nairobi-Nakuru Highway also pay fuel levy. The government development agenda in terms of roads is domiciled around the taxes Kenyans pay and also fuel levy. Kenyans who already pay taxes for making roads, why are they being made to pay to use the road from Nairobi to Nakuru? That is more than triple taxation. And the road should be built, and Kenya has many avenues. Kenya has been borrowing currently for the recent 1 year. Kenya borrows 3.5 billion Kenya shillings every single day. It therefore means if we optimally allocate the resources that Kenya is borrowing every day, this road we can be building 3 kilometers because it's costing 1 billion shillings per kilometer. We can be building 3 kilometers every day. It will take us 60 days to have built the road from Nairobi to Nakuru without having to make residents pay and without having it operate as a PPP. And the major egregious issue on that, on that road is that all the other private sector investors have shunned the model of PPP on the road because it's not viable commercially. If you look even yesterday, I am glad that even newspapers, I saw Business Day, they actually covered that the Nairobi Expressway is making losses, is actually widening the loss. With the traffic we see on the road, it is making losses. Yet the government is forcing NSSF to use money for workers to do what the government ought to have done in building roads. The government is deliberately forcing NSSF to sink workers' money because it will never recover this money. And that is why a project like a road is deemed to be a public good. Public goods are never to be paid to use. And that is why you can never recoup money by charging. You build them using conventional taxes and conventional levies like the fuel levy. And this issue of tolling, definitely, NSSF is sinking workers' money. It will never recover. But more importantly, we cannot subject Kenyans who use Nairobi-Nakuru Highway into paying for the road, yet they already participate in paying taxes and also paying levies like the fuel levy. For the last 37 days, our universities have been in a situation that has stalled in terms of education. There is nothing happening in our universities because of the lecturer strikes and also the non-teaching staff strike that is ongoing. And it seems the government has totally abdicated its duty because we do not see the urgency on the side of government when it comes to handling the strike that is currently ongoing in our universities. and it is very appalling. And to make the matter worse, we have seen in the recent past that the government has now started threatening Wasu and Kudheiha. Yet, what they are asking for is the government to honor what the government has already signed in the past. And we are demanding and asking the money that the lecturers are requesting and the members of Kudheiha is 7.9 billion Kenya shillings, which is covering up for several years. And if you look at how the government has been spending money in the recent months, as it was actually released by the government itself, we have seen that the preference of releasing exchequer or money has gone into votes that are engaged in political management. That is why you see the operations and management budgets in the big offices. For only 2 years in the financial year, they had already exhausted money for the entire half of the year. So the country is very eager to fund political management and to fund political barazas like the one we've been seeing in the name of empowerment, but they cannot find 7.9 billion shillings to honor a CBA that is already in place, as signed through Wasu and Kudheiha. And therefore, we are asking the ministry concerned, the Ministry of Education, and especially the part that handles the higher learning, and also the National Treasury, please stop taking our universities into a circus. We need this money sent. We need the arrears paid to the beneficiaries so that our institutions of higher learning can go back to business as usual. And it is disappointing to see that there seems to be no urgency. No one in government is even aware, so to say, that there is a strike ongoing in our universities. It is very, very disappointing. And we need this to be resolved because the government has money. They need to drop the lethargy. They need to drop allocating money to non-priority areas because education remains an important segment of our society. In the same note, Kenyans must have noted that some of our schools actually closed earlier than anticipated in regards to JSS and higher and senior secondary. And it is basically because the government also refused and abdicated to send money for capitation to the JSS learners and to the schools in the senior secondary. And I'm wondering, what is then the priority? We seem to have our priorities upside down because what we say in public, and especially what the government says in public, they don't seem to want to honor it when it comes to where the rubber meets the road. That our schools across the country received just a small fraction of capitation. And some had to actually close earlier because they had no money to run the schools for the remaining days. It is important that we bring back education to where it belongs in Kenya. And it belongs to a higher pedestal. And it belongs to a higher priority. So that even before we engage in ostentatious political fundings, let us focus our mind into funding education